We're going to cover the ultimate training split that every single athlete can be doing, and we're going to start right now. When I've coached at the Olympics, when I've coached at 10 different world championships, even as I'm sitting here preparing to leave for Paris to go coach at my second Olympics, one of the big factors that I've learned from engaging with some of the best coaches in the entire world, from being around some of the best athletes in the entire world, is that athletes need to be training in just 4 simple areas. And we're going to go into those 4 key areas and then what you should be doing within the week to actually target those 4 key areas. It's going to be endurance training, speed-based training, okay, strength training, and then explosive work. And inside of that explosive work, we would see things like impulse-based training, athlete day. Inside of strength work, we're going to see things like absolute strength, some speed strength to a point. Inside of speed, this is all locomotion based. So how quickly are we running? What's our change of direction? How well are we accelerating? And then endurance is how long can we endure some discomfort? Okay, and this could be attributed to training long, slow distance. This could be interval work, and this can even be in some specific sports. This might be based off of hypertrophy. So sarcoplasmic hypertrophy can be a form of endurance. So when you are an athlete in a specific sport, there needs to be a confident way of approaching the entire week of training so that you don't have a negative impact on your sport-specific tasks. If I'm a basketball player, I need to be able to train speed, to train strength, to train endurance, to train explosiveness without negatively impacting my ability to play basketball. And the main goal here is that you understand and learn what you should be doing on a weekly basis to train that with a specific example. In our case, we're going to show you exactly what a basketball player can be doing. And then we're going to alter that potentially for, let's say, a football player and even other sports that you guys are participating in so that you can start that training today. So that first key aspect is I like to establish an assessment week. So if we have an athlete coming in, we need to go through that assessment week. And for us here at Garage Strength, we use an assessment week that's going to determine where the athlete is in their career. Are they a beginner? Are they, at the high school level? Are they at the collegiate level, the professional level? And then where is that low hanging fruit? So we can see like, oh, their speed's really good, but their strength is weak. So we have that assessment week laid out entirely. And that's going to start with testing specific attributes around speed, testing specific attributes around upper body strength, and then getting into some leg strength or even leg power movements, something like a clean or a vertical jump, and then even getting into athlete day. And that's going to show us, what change of direction looks like and things along those lines. And then the big thing is if we lay out a specific program for you guys to actually execute. I like to look through sport depths. Okay, so if we look at sport depth 1, let's say we're training a shot putter versus sport depth 4 as a basketball player. Okay, sport depth 1, we're going to be more focused on leg strength. Sport depth 4, we're going to be more focused on acceleration work or speed-based work because there's locomotion. So in the example of the basketball player, you guys, basketball players, and even potentially a running back along these lines, that day 1 should be focused on speed-based training. Okay, so we're going to do some type of acceleration work and we're going to do some type of athlete day. Okay, so one of the cool attributes that we look at is, okay, if we're going to be doing acceleration work, this is going to be targeting that speed component. If we're targeting that speed component, and most of the training or most of the examples that you will see inside of a basketball game will involve a large amount of change of direction and a large amount of acceleration. So we need to dial in, what does that acceleration work look like? What does that mean as far as executing a specific workout? So if we're training acceleration, let's say we're doing a specific type of warm-up and then we can get into that acceleration task. We're focusing on 10s or 15s or some weighted sled work, maybe hill work. That's going to help us increase that speed, increase that acceleration, get to a higher rate faster. And then at the end of this workout, we might do 2 or 3 exercises that are focused on an athlete aspect related to the sport. So in this case, change of direction. In this case, decelerating as quickly as possible. That's going to transfer really well to the basketball realm. So that day 1 is going to be focused on speed. Remember, if we look at those 4 key attributes, endurance, speed, strength, and explosiveness. On day 1, we just hit acceleration work. Acceleration work is going to be underneath speed. Athlete day is going to be underneath explosiveness. And we're almost doing a combination workout here. So we're really targeting two attributes just in that day one. Now, the second day for the basketball player, let's say we need a little bit of a rest. We want to focus on being able to train and do supplementary work as well as possible without having a negative impact on the sport performance realm. Okay, so day two, we want to give our legs a little bit of a breather. We want to still be able to get to the court and be able to execute things as well as possible. Even if we're training a running back, okay, so let's go to sport depth 2. Now we're training a running back. That day one for the running back is still going to be speed focused. It might have a larger speed component, okay, and we don't do athlete day. But even still, that day two is still going to be an upper body power day. Okay, so inside of that upper body power day, this is where we want to focus on lighting up that upper body, getting the upper body as strong and as explosive as possible. So that means that we need to do things like, dead hang pull-ups, fast pull-ups, explosive push-ups to boxes, dumbbell benches, bench press, incline bench, dips, a lot of rows, anything to increase the structural stability of that upper body. Now, obviously a running back is going to lift a little bit heavier, a little bit more volume than that basketball player, but it's still a key component. And that day two can also involve training some of the trunk aspect, training some of the core aspect. Day one, speed, we're focusing on acceleration and some athlete work. Day two, we're going to get into that upper body power day. This is where we're going to increase the structural integrity of the upper body. Depending upon the sport depth, the volume and the intensity of that upper body lift will be determined depending on that. Day three, okay, this is the third day of the week. If I have linebackers and running backs, I'm going to be training that lower body power, okay? If I have a basketball player, I'm going to be training that lower body power. Sport depth 4 versus sport depth 2. The big difference here is the movements, okay, and the intensity. If I have a running back, I'm going to try and push them on, let's say, a one box clean, okay? That's going to be that first lift on a lower body power day. It's going to be a technical coordination lift. It's going to be followed by a big time max strength exercise, and then we're going to get into some type of hypertrophy movement or some type of accessory exercise to provide support for gaining that big time strength. In the case of the basketball player, okay, so in this example here, you could see we have the assessment week laid out here. Then we can get into that exposure phase here. This is the first phase, and you can see day one, you can see day two here. Now on day three for a basketball player, where we're focusing on that lower body strength, we might look at like a high hang power snatch, and we're just going to do one technical coordination movement. Then we might do something like lighter front squats to a box or goblet squats, something like that, because we have individuals that could be taller. Okay, let's say hypothetically we have a basketball player who's 6'5". It's really hard to squat full range of motion when someone is over 6'5". Now, we still want to be able to do that, so we need to get to that point. But when we're laying out that week, or when we're laying out that specific day three lower body power, let's focus on doing a simple technical coordination exercise, then some type of absolute strength movement. For tall individuals, single leg squat is also absolutely fantastic. And then when we do the accessory movements, this is when we're going to target, let's say, the glutes, the posterior chain, to really enable the individual to have some structural integrity around their hamstrings and even around their knees, so they can change direction as rapidly as possible. Okay, so that's that third key factor. Now, when we're getting into day four, this is where things get a little bit more interesting, because we've got to think through going back to those four key concepts: training for strength, training for endurance, training for explosiveness, training for speed. A lot of basketball players might only get to the gym 3 days a week. In this case, what I would argue is that we can still factor that acceleration work as outside the gym. Okay, so that's outside the gym supplemental work. So that day four could be just the third day in the gym, but we're still trying to make sure that they're recovering as well as possible. So there might be a day in between where they have that specific rest day. Okay, so in this case, on day four, we're going to do a little bit of a split. Okay, so day four, we're going to focus on more explosiveness. Okay, so now we've done the strength work on day 2 and day 3. We've seen that we've done the speed work on day 1. We've seen that we've done the explosive work on day 1. We're also going to come back and do more explosive work on day 4. Okay, and then finally, we haven't mentioned the endurance aspect. Now we're going to get into the endurance aspect, which we'll do at the end of the workout on day 4. So before we get into the specifics of that day 4, you guys can be training like this throughout an entire week. On this 4-day split, this is a great way that you can train specifically for your sport. And that's exactly how we've programmed Peak Strength 2.0. This is our brand new updated version of Peak Strength. We've taken our original programs, we've enhanced them based off of what we're doing with our world-class athletes here at Garage Strength. We've taken the concepts of training those 4 key areas, and we've laid out more effective systems of programming that focus on speed, that focus on endurance, explosiveness, and strength. And it's available now inside of Peak Strength. So if you guys want to get into this specific workout split, you want to start to target your speed-based training, you want to increase your endurance while also improving your explosiveness and your strength, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. You can download the brand new version of Peak Strength. It is absolutely incredible. The amount of content, the amount of information, the amount of workouts, the workout split is exactly how we do it here. So day 4, this is going to be that impulse day. If I'm training a running back on impulse day, we are going to do some type of clean. We're going to do some type of 2-box clean, on the minute power clean, something like that. If I'm training a basketball player, we might do something like a dumbbell snatch, something like a trap bar jump, okay? Something a little bit less intense, but we're still going to be doing that explosive work. Then we're going to get into something like unbroken single leg squats or unbroken back squats. We want to increase the overall explosiveness through impulse-based training. So we want the basketball player to learn how to apply a massive amount of force in a short period of time. So we can work through like the first 3 exercises on that impulse day. And then here's where we're going to alter things a little bit. If we have a basketball player who struggles with endurance, outside of just playing a little bit more basketball and improving their endurance through basketball, now we're going to bring in some type of interval training. So we might focus on developing yo-yo tests and improving their yo-yo tests. We might try and focus on just getting on the assault bike because we might have a bigger athlete and we don't want them to have any ground contact or ground reaction forces from their endurance-based training. So if they're on the assault bike or they're on the rower, they can really get their heart rate to skyrocket, but they don't get the contact from the ground, which is going to beat up their knees and their ankles. So at the end of this day 4, we might just do 15 to 20 minutes of interval-based training. Just in those 15 to 20 minutes, if we can elevate their heart rate, bring it back down, skyrocket their heart rate, bring it back down, skyrocket their heart rate, bring it back down, they're going to make extremely effective adaptations based on their endurance. And that will make it easier for them to be more explosive later in the game of basketball. And it comes back to laying out this week as effectively as possible. In part 2 of this video series, we are going to go deep into how we lay out a speed-based program. Okay, so we're going to go into speed-based training. We're going to look at the aspects around speed, what that encompasses, and then how you guys can apply that and how you guys need to be doing speed specifically. And then our 3rd part of this series, we're actually going to get into a speed workout where you're going to see me coaching 5 different athletes through a speed-based day to improve their overall locomotion, their acceleration, and even some of their technical aspects of running. So when we're recapping this, there's 4 key aspects that we need to train for athletes: endurance, strength, speed, explosiveness. Okay, those are the 4 things. That's it. Then the next thing you guys need to do as athletes, you've got to have days to focus on speed, days to focus on strength, days to focus on explosiveness, and then we'll take care of figuring out where you can do those endurance-based clips. Okay, if we can put in those little clips of endurance work, that's going to enhance your endurance in your sports specific realm as easy as possible. And again, this is available in Peak Strength right now. Head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. Download Peak Strength today. Select this specific sport that you're prepping for, because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.